Welcome everyone. Thank you very much for coming and joining us today. Thank you for responding for this invitation. It's really lovely to see you here. And before we start, I just would like to check. I know I recognize many faces and some of you I didn't see for some time, but is in the room today somebody who haven't done any like Kundalini activation class? Just if you can put your hand up. If somebody haven't experienced the class like that with any teacher, any facilitator, everyone done something. Yeah, I can see. Thank you. Somebody else? Okay, brilliant. Thank you. So today's class, it's gonna be just very much setting a tone about what we would like to share with you, myself and Shri. We're gonna just bring some basic informations, and then if there will be a pull from our side and yours to learn more, to discover more about Kundalini, that kind of classes perhaps will happen. We're thinking of bringing more teachings from traditions and rituals and texts, and we could really dive deeper into this space. But for now, today, let's just kind of cover basics and open up the space. So that's the most important part of what we're gonna do here today. So it's all happened with many conversations I had with Shri about the space, about possibility, about what is going on with that Kundalini spaces and what is possible. But at some point, it was actually whatever was happening, whatever is happening around. It felt like this word Kundalini become very overused, like abused. Everything was Kundalini at some point, and it didn't feel very much right at all. I felt like next day I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna see some kind of advertisements of Kundalini cornflakes for breakfast because everyone wants to do Kundalini at some point. And it felt really too much. Like for me, it was like very much too much. So I felt like maybe it's better to just drop that and don't even talk about Kundalini, because that space changed so much. When I started to do this work 5 years ago, it was very deep. Like there was some deep calling why we were doing it. And right now, everyone just wants to do it. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I'm thinking about the agendas we have behind that. Everyone wants to be facilitators, everyone wants to do it, but who is really coming to that space to really be free, to awaken, to really find that depth in it? I think so we kind of get lost in the middle. I really see that, and it's very sad for me to see it. I've never wanted to be a facilitator in the first place. It was a terrifying thing for me to do. I don't like, I'm actually terrified sitting in front of people and talking. Each time I'm doing is like a huge, I have to really come out of my comfort zone. But I find it that is something that can really touch us so deep and change our life, and yet we are messing up with that. That's what is happening so much all over the places. Like so many spaces are being shared with the name Kundalini, and I feel like it's not what it's supposed to be. If we want to be touched by grace, and we really want to feel that depth, it needs to really come from our deep longings, not from the trendy idea of becoming, having that fancy trend. What is, but you know what I mean. That's really what I'm coming from, and I had a hard time, and then Shri started having those impulses and said, like, why can't we teach it and bring some depth to it and really share what is there about Kundalini and what this space is about. So today we just want to introduce you to that space and see how you're going to respond. If you find that there is something we can discover together, we're gonna dive deeper into it. And I'm not saying that somebody is doing the wrong work. I'm not kind of judging here no one, but I think so we should really check with ourselves what are we doing and why we are doing, what are our agendas in this. So that's a very important thing I wanted to share.
It's wonderful. So Yeah, so again, what I want to share here a little bit is from what my teachers have told us and from what the experiences that we are all having, and it's like I think somebody's mentioned, we are sharing the same experience, not just in the room but in our lives. But when we're talking about Kundalini from the traditional point of view, it's in the tradition, at least in the tradition that I come from. Kundalini is not considered like a particular energy or a particular force even. Rather, Kundalini is the divine herself. She is grace. She is the conscious principle. She is divine. But again, the problem with words like this is, someone can say like this and we completely agree with it, but then we don't really know what we're talking about because it could mean so many things. Like what is divine? What is sacred? What does it mean to be in the presence of sacred? Is it force? Is it energy? Is it vibrations? I think, and all of us have experienced it. Like maybe we've experienced it when you're around somebody. Like I had certain experiences around Sadhguru, and it was. One part of it is all the energy and all the sensations, but there's also something else because this energy and stuff I felt it other places also. But somehow around this guy, like there were moments when he would open up, and all of a sudden, like all of our t-shirts are wet because we have been kind of leaking, and we don't even know what happened. But all our t-shirts are wet because people are wailing because you cannot believe this person or this being is there. It's kind of so unbelievable that the whole body kind of reacts on it. Or sometimes when maybe we are in a sacred space, we're in a place where you suddenly feel there is something bigger is in this room. Something, or maybe, I don't know, maybe when somebody witnesses the birth of their child. And it's not the child, it's not the mother, it's not the father, something else is there. And you can feel it tacitly, like there is no question about it. Because otherwise, when we think of this to be in the room with something larger or with the divine, it's not an idea. It's not about. Because people think when we have notions of divinity, like if we are safe or we are protected, there's this notions, the idea of divine or divine as a feeling, like we're guided or we are loved, or like I think many of us talking about like sensations, like it's force. But Kundalini, at least like the way my teacher spoke about it, it's not this force that is moving through the system. It's like not confusing the effects of the energy to the energy herself. It's like when we are, let's say, in a moment of joy or in a moment of humor, we might have laughter happen to us. But laughing is not humor. Just somebody laughs. I have had some little horrifying experience. In India, this thing called laughter yoga became very popular a few years back. So in the mornings, if you go for a walk, you have all these 70s and 80-year-old people starting to go bend down, inhale, and ha, 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 they would. It was quite terrifying, almost demonic. You have these circles of old people with fake teeth laughing really loudly. And they all happen almost at the same time, so it's almost like a cult. So 7 a.m., you go anywhere in any park, you are going to be in trouble. So, but so there is when there is humor and then there something happen, like Ruth mentioned love. When you're in love, so many things happen in so many layers of our being, right? There's all this chemistry which is going through the system. There are all kinds of thoughts happening. There's all kinds of emotions flowing. But love is not that sensation, isn't it? Love is not that feeling. Love is not even a feeling. Love is not even the thought that we have. It's something else. We can't explain it. Even humor is that. Like, what is humor? Like, somebody tells us a joke. A joke is a series of logical things, and then suddenly there's an illogical thing. And in a moment, there is a kind of shock. And laughter comes out of somewhere. Like, it's even like, where does laughter come out of? It doesn't make any sense. There is a shock, and then from some infinite space, this thing happens, and we experience humor. Such a mystical thing. Just even laugh at the silliest joke is such a mystical thing. So unknown. Love is unknown. So that's how I feel about what Shakti, that there's all these layers, like from the gross layer with all this shaking and moving and all this stuff, and then subtler layers in the level of emotions, where all these emotions getting released, or bliss and ecstasy, all of these things happening. There's so many levels to it. But just like love is not any of those, there is something more which we can't exactly point to, but it is very obvious. In the traditions, they talk about Shakti that way. They talk about the divine that way. It's all of these things are happening. But what is Kundalini like? That's also an invitation, actually. Like, what will happen if we don't get caught up in the effects of the force, but actually walk our way back to the source itself? Right? Like we are sitting there or lying there, I know the force is in the presence. We are feeling all of these different levels of system getting activated. But what will happen if one day we can trace our way back to the contact, not the effect of the contact? Yeah. And this anyway happen, like this will anyway happen. That's the purpose of the process. But unless we get fascinated with some aspect of the experience, if we get fascinated, then we get stuck there, like the energy rushing or the ecstasy, and it's so addictive. Yeah. I think the deepest addiction is an addiction to that which is uplifting, isn't it? That's the deepest addiction. Like the toughest prison to break is the one that's really comfortable. Yeah. And normally that's why we have teachers around that kind of kick us out, especially when we get into these really, really nice places. And to truly surrender, but the thing is, if we can truly surrender, to the energy deeper than our surrender to that fascination, then the let go will happen. But again, I just wanted to just set that whole context around experiencing Shakti, because that's why we have this term, like Kundalini Shakti, there's a word behind it. That is, we're not here referring to life force, not referring to prana. Prana is one layer of who we are. Just like we have body, we have thought, we have mind, we have emotion, we have prana, we have life force. And of course, everything is mother, right? She is everything. So in that way, it's, of course, she is also life force. But when we're referring to Kundalini Shakti, we are referring to a cosmic principle, much bigger. We're talking about a much bigger game here. We're talking about the whole thing. That awakened principle. Yeah. But the thing is, when the child is crying, the mother is cooking something in the kitchen, and she has lots of work to do, this kid is screaming. Then she comes and she gives him a toy or her a toy, to play with. If the child is satisfied with the toy, then mother goes and she has lots to do. A lot of things happening in the universe. She has enough work to do. She's a busy woman. But if the child keeps throwing away whatever toy, and only mother is enough, nothing less than her will do, then she has no choice. She has to show up. She throw a few toys at her: bliss, vibrations, ecstasy, love. If you are happy with the toys, she has to, okay, you play with it, have fun. But if we keep putting on a tantrum, the divine tantrum, then she has no choice. She has to come to us. Only divine will do. Nothing less than the divine is enough for me. So that's the possibility also with whatever work that we are doing, the meditations, being in the field. That this is not because earlier when I'd first gotten involved with this activation space, because I'd come from a very traditional background, I was a bit confused because people are talking Kundalini from the earth energy, and then there's a cosmic energy, and then there's this, and like, what is happening here? Because I think we were using words in different contexts. From where I came, mother is everything, and there might be different flavors and different aspects, but when we're talking about Kundalini Shakti, we're talking about it. In the yogic culture, she is considered she's the goddess of the yogis. The yogis pray to her. There are so many songs, and if you see the text of many of these yogis, they're like scientists. They're very, very cold. They're very, very cold, precise. But when they write about Shakti, it's like lovers. They're poems. They're like songs. And it's so, if you read their other texts and you read their thing about Shakti, it's almost like a different person. And that's this unusual kind of a thing that when it comes to mother, we are a child. And there is a relationship is very different than a technician working with the chakras and the nadis and the bindu. his mother. Yeah. So that's the kind of orientation we're talking about. That we're dealing with, not dealing is not the right word. We are relating with divine herself. We're relating with mother, not some force, not some sensation. That's too small for her. Yeah, it's like it's love. It's much. We have no idea what the fuck it is, but it consumes us. We consumed by it. You want to say something? Settle enough.
Yeah, we will move to surrender, I guess. And really to experience it, we need to surrender to it. And I would like to ask you, if you would like to help us out, what is surrender for you? What is surrender for you? Like really?
Yeah, because this is like even in the path, towards Kundalini, like again, all of us here know, we've heard the spiel enough times. There are two paths: the way of surrender and the way of will. We've heard this. Yeah? Even though honestly, if you look at the traditions, the places, the communities which give us Shakti path, also gave us practices. There are actually it's not like two schools. This is also an artificial dichotomy. Right? But anyways, there are these two ways, right? One of will, one of surrender. And here we are kind of following the path of transmission, following the path of surrender. And all of you have experienced enough of it. So yeah, we'll just
Exactly.
just
Yeah, sorry. Exactly. So this is what we all the time asking you for, to come and surrender, to come and have no expectations, to just lie down and do nothing. But what actually really means that? It can mean so many different things. I'm gonna share with you a bit what surrender is for me. But if you would like to tell us how you actually really approaching that surrender, what you're doing, okay, sorry. Please tell me more about what surrender is, if you can share with us. There's no wrong answers. So, who would like to share? We're gonna have a slow start, but then everyone will speak, so come on. You can either speak or write in the chat, whatever feels right. You heard me talking, come and surrender, let go, and things like that over and over again. But how does it feel to surrender? What you do to surrender? How you surrender? And surrendering from is non-doing. Yeah, non-doing, just being in the space. Anyone else?
No expectations.
No expectations, yeah. Trust.
But what do we mean by trust?
I feel like I give myself over to the universe. Beautiful.
I can, if you want, I can elaborate on what I mean by trust. Yes, so I think it's exactly what you said before. It's like the faith that there is something bigger than myself, and it's trusting that bigger than myself. That's why will is not needed, because I'm being led and I'm being cared for, and there's nothing I have to do.
Thank you very much. Surrender is giving the trust to whatever is happening in that moment. Yes, letting go of control. Like we all know that, like we exactly know what surrender is, but are we really, truly experience or being in that space with all those principles? Are we really deeply surrendering to it? Opening up for relaxation as much as possible, yeah. Because often it's just the words that there are, and there's nothing behind that, or we want, but something holds us back because we have agendas, because we actually have expectations. We're thinking that we don't, or there is some level of us that wish to have let go of those expectations. But it's very rare that we're actually really in that space with no expectations, with this complete trust. For me, and the deepest experience with the surrender happened to me, and I know that space from the space of acceptance, when I truly accept this moment, not knowing what will happen next. And I had this experience a few years ago, and it was extremely transformative. It didn't even happen in the class, but if I can talk about surrender, I know that I need to accept, and I don't know what I'm accepting. I'm just accepting this given moment. And there must be so much trust. There's an enormous amount of courage needs to happen in that moment to really accept and to really surrender. Nothing passive here. It's actually very, very active. But it's dropping all the agendas. I don't know if I'm gonna win, if I'm gonna lose, if I'm gonna even be alive. I don't know what will happen next. That's surrender. And then if there is something greater, it will take care of me. That's for me what surrender is. And that's what I'm asking you guys to do when we're coming for the classes. And sometimes I'm throwing that joke that how we can let go of the expectations if you all come here, book your time off, pay for the class, and how to relax into no expectations if there is already so much commitment in it. And but if we are all the time coming and just wanting benefits or maybe some experiences or I don't want to say entertainment, but sometimes we just coming to experience something new, and this is happening, and that's how it sometimes is. We are lowering the possibility what is there, but if we can just melt into knowing that there is something beyond us, something greater that can take care of us, then we can let go of the expectations as much as possible. So very often I believe that you heard me saying this, how to throw these agendas away, because we think we know, but we are always thinking from our limited perception of me, and it's always based on our well-being. Very few can really let go and surrender fully. So that's about the surrender. And on top of that, here, the way we are living our life, our value depends on what we have achieved. It's so common here, like what we achieved, what we own, what we become. So how to let go of this one, or how to just be enough and worthy enough of being rather just doing and becoming. That's a very important aspect as well. Sometimes I can see that we coming to the class with so many, it's like a buffet. People coming and I want this and this. Let me see what I'm gonna pick today, what I'm gonna have for my dinner. And as Sri said, that's all the effects of the energy. But if you really, really would love to meet the energy, it's like you want to know the chef who actually create that energy happen, you know. So are you satisfied with the meal, which we often are? But once we have enough meals, once we already have them so many times that they become boring, we want to know the chef, so maybe he can teach us something else. And that's when I'm looking into the cause of their energy, the root, the truth, something deeper. So that's how I see it as well, surrender and being in that space.
I think that's why also like things like love is so impactful in life, because for some reason this thing which happens to us, for a brief moment, somebody else become more important than us. It's incredibly crazy. That's why I think it's like life-shattering, life-changing, because it never happens otherwise, somehow, or somebody becomes a mother or a father, somehow something else became more important than you, and it's a huge experience. Like I felt around Sadhguru, not because I had some cultivated anything, just I don't know. It's not anything. He when I was around him, he actually consciously never spoke about these things, devotion. He never. If you touch his foot, he will not even look at you. If you say hi, he will say hi back. You know, he was consciously not going there, not letting any. There were no photos of him that time. Now, of course, there are tons of them in the ashram, but that time there were no photos. He was wearing, t-shirt and shorts. Like what you're seeing now on YouTube is a very different guy than I met. He was riding bikes. We were playing volleyball every evening, so it was a very different situation. But it was in the air. There was no question about it, because how like if you have a sense that there is something larger than me in the room and it is tangible, that like there is something sacred here, then there is no room in that space to use it, whether it's prosperity or healing, or like if something much bigger than me is in the room, what is the right relationship to that bigger thing? If you're going to call her the divine mother, which means then we are the child, and what is the right relationship of the child with the mother? And are we bringing that to the mat? Like at least this is, in the East, this is what, there's there's this whole aspect of devotion. I don't know if devotion makes sense anymore outside of this context. Because I've seen like yoga practices, at least I can tell you, like being taught in an ashram, and I've seen them in yoga studios in the West. And I would say in many cases, the instructions are more clearer and the asanas are more precise outside. Yeah, it's a bit clumsy in India, I'll be honest about it. But, and sometimes it's even in the same lineage, the same, somebody came to India, learned it, and I went to the ashram in Sweden, and he's doing a really good job. It's so organized. I was like, wow, this is how they should do it in India. But in India, there's this ambience. It's not anything that's done. There is nothing that's done special, but it's in the air, and then the same asana does something incredible. People are doing an asana, and stuff that you're seeing in activation class happens. People start to shake, cry, releases happen, the body's going to mudras, and just like Surya Namaskar, like nothing fancy, Nadi Shodhana. Within 3 minutes, the hands are moving around. I've never seen happen in outside, And it's not that there is anything magic. The magic is surrender. Magic is devotion. When, I don't know how to explain it beyond that. It's in the air. It's like when I was outside, I noticed a lot of people said hey, I love you, I care about you. And I found it a bit odd. And my mom never told me she loved me. It's so unusual for me to hear these things from where I come from. Nobody says they love you at all. I've never heard it. But there is no question that the only reason this lady is alive is for me. I have no doubt about it. It's in the air. And when it's in the air, to talk about it seems a little bit kind of odd, uncomfortable. Because it's nobody talks about breathing air. What's there to talk about it? So that's how I felt devotion in certain ashrams. I won't say all, but because if I am a child and she is the mother, then there is this natural connection. There is this natural, when I was saying trust, but trust like this t-shirt drenching trust, which I'm not even, it was so different because people are, I heard about things like gratitude in the night, remember 5 things you're grateful for. This guy, this bearded guy I met just 1 year back, he opens his arms, all of a sudden, everything is pouring out, I don't know what the fuck is happening. And you experience gratitude like this thing in the gut, and it's not even that I'm cultivating any shit. And then I feel, wow, this is gratitude, I can't believe he's here. Fuck. And the whole hall of 1,000 people just, I can't explain. Then I think this is gratitude, How can you cultivate this thing? You can't cultivate it. You can melt into it. When something bigger comes in, you have no choice but to melt into it. And then it becomes powerful. It becomes transformative, then improving yourself. Because in that moment when he parted his hand, I didn't give a shit about improving myself. I didn't want to be in the room. I just wanted to go. And yeah. Okay, now I will stop. Before I get carried away.
That was good. Thank you so much, Sri. Thank you.
So much more is possible when we bring in this relationship, not even right, this deeper connection with Mother and this devotion which is there in the basis of everything. That's why we fall in love. That's why we want to have kids. That's why we love to have dogs. It's there in our gut. There's something deep and something profound, and it's not anything sophisticated. It's so natural. Yeah. Then something else happens when the energy flows.
So with that sharing, and I hope the room is beautifully open. So thank you very much for listening to us today. Let's move slowly into the session and let's really open up to that possibility. Melt into it. Shri, would you like to comment on something else? I think so.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Shiva